Okay, so Daenerys, right? Fifth installment in this novel, yeah? Okay, right. Well, welcome to the ramblings of an insane person online commenting on A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 3, Storm of Swords. Last time we saw Dany, it was 15 chapters ago, exactly halfway through this novel when she captured the city of Yunkai in the space of one single chapter, and remembering a prophecy she heard in the House of the Undying, she decided to open her heart and embrace the Yunkai as her children, because they were all calling her mother, so what are you going to do, right? And one more city submits to her. There's a plus two more sellsword companies, the Stormcrows and the Second Sons, pledge to fight for her. Yeah, quite a day, but what if I told you that all of that stuff that happened in the previous Daenerys POV chapter actually took place one day before the prologue on this very novel? The prologue of Storm of Swords. That's right. Our friend Chet was getting ready to set his murderous mutiny plot in motion, more or less, at the same time as Dany was conquering Yunkai at the other end of the world. This, according to that spreadsheet I always quote from, you can find it online, the spreadsheet titled The Most Precise ASOIAF Timeline in Existence, and I always dislocate my jaw every time I go through that acronym. To whose authors always goes my gratitude, as usual. I mean, we knew that Daenerys, as a character, was a few chapters ahead of everyone else, but 42 chapters ahead? Wrap your mind around that, dear listener. And while we're at it, as we embark into this new Daenerys POV, let's take a look at other things that have yet to happen while we're at. Why not? Chronology. I'm all about timelines today. Right, okay, I've got all my notes here, so here we go. Catelyn and Robb Stark are still alive, for example, you'll be pleased to know. In fact, Team Robb has yet to leave Riverrun, as Lord Hoster Tully has just died. Jon Snow has reached just reached the Fist of the First Men and survived the massacre that went surveyed, not survived. He wasn't there. Sam was, but surveyed the massacre that went down. Can't even read my own writing in these notes. But the same Jon has yet to set foot in that cave with Ygritte. That famous cave in Iceland. Well, the real, the cave in our world is in Iceland. In their case, no, it's somewhere between Greygard and Greendor, or was it Greengard and Greydor? Stone Door and Greygard. That's it. So anyway, also Bran. Just in the previous chapter that we read, Bran met Samwell at Nightfort, but here, at the same time as this chapter is taking place, he's still nowhere near the wall. Team Bran right now is still wandering around the mountains. In a few days, Mira will tell Bran the story of the Night of the Laughing Tree, which is it was 33 chapters ago in this novel. And around the same time, Balon Greyjoy will die a mysterious death while, crossing that dodgy wooden bridge at Castle Pike in the Iron Islands. Always told him that the bridge was in dire need of repairs, but no, he just keeps on crossing it after getting hammered. So there you go. So I find it funny to think of all those unconnected events taking place at the same time, across continents, like Bran learning more about the tourney at Harrenhal, when Mira tells him the story of the Night of the Laughing Tree, and simultaneously Balon going, oh, whoopsie daisy, oops, I'm dead. So that's, that apparently that happened almost simultaneously. Let's see, what else? Oh, well, Arya is, as of now, still a captive in the hands of the Brotherhood without banners. Not for long, though. And Tyrion has yet to tell Bronn to find a way to dispose of Simon Silvertongue, which we read about way back. What was it, Tyrion 3? And which Bronn will do, you'll remember, in a gastronomically creative way. Simon Silvertongue, I'm betting that a stew in a certain wine sink will be named after him. As for Sansa, aside from the sporadic interactions we saw her having with Tyrion, last we checked on her, she was getting married to Tyrion, but there won't be a proper Sansa chapter until the royal wedding, which is to take place in 2 weeks from this chapter here. Jamie, chronologically speaking, has just literally arrived at Harrenhal right now, but it will be a few days and a few sessions with Qyburn before he's fit to join Roose Bolton at that famous James Bond villain kind of dinner. Oh, and Davos was freed from that dungeon on Dragonstone just 5 days ago to witness a bit of the old leech magic. A bit of entertainment there. Yeah, it's all there. 5 days, by the way. Yeah, I mean, that's how precise these guys are. I told you, they don't call it the most precise timeline for nothing. There's some Reddit user goes by the name Private Major, and but there's, I'm sure it's a collective effort, and there's the help of a certain Feldman 10, which I think is Adam Feldman, the author of those beautiful articles on the Marinese blot. Anyway, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for creating this beautiful document, and gives us a bit of a and then while we're going through all these other characters, let's not forget to remind ourselves where Littlefinger is supposed to be right now, because always remind yourself where Littlefinger is at periodically through the novel. You should always do that. Oh wow, where's Littlefinger? Ostensibly anyway, where he said he's going to be a few chapters back, and where we imagine he might be right now, because right now Lord Peter Baelish, aka Littlefinger, has been traveling to the Eyrie, in the Vale, for 10 days now, so he might be reaching his destination by now, but is he really? Supposedly, a Braavosi galley named the Merlin King whisked him away from King's Landing the day after the decision to send him out there was officially deliberated in a small council back in Tyrion 3. But as to where the man actually is, it's anyone's guess. And after this previously on A Storm of Swords, let's get into the actual chapter, which opens with a view of Meereen. Get used to the city, dear listener. Get used to the 800 feet high Great Pyramid with a bronze statue of a harpy at its top. Get used to the multicolored bricks, unlike Astapor's bricks, which are red, and Yunkai's bricks, yellow. Also, get used to the sheer size of the city, which is the same as both Astapor and Yunkai combined together. So this, is a proper city that won't be a walk in the park, won't be a pushover. I'm just giving you all these factoids about Meereen because we'll be spending some time here on location. Also, we get the impression that Meereen is way better fortified and has a decent military force. So yeah, tougher nut to crack. So then his army's out there, at the city walls, besieging the city, as it were. She's got the muscles to do that, and the city has sent out one of its champions out, sort of challenging her or her men, her army, to a single combat. It's one of those things. And I'm always reminded of that creepy guy that comes out of the walls of Mordor. Remember that? Although there are differences, but yeah, there's this one guy coming out of the city walls. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so and this champion is out there, and you should see him actually. By the way, you should see his attire and everything and his accessories. Here, let me read you the passage. Armored in scales of copper and jet and mounted upon a white charger, whose striped pink and white banding matched the silk cloth flowing from his shoulders. The lance he bore was 14 feet long, swirling pink and white, and his hair was shaped and teased and lacquered into two great curling ram's horns. What are you basking in Camden Town? Okay, multicolored bricks, but white and pink. So what's the deal? Are these the colors of this guy's house, or the colors of the city? Questions must be asked. This will have to be investigated further. So yeah, is the sort of guy that would definitely stick out at parties. And the Blood Riders, the Khalasar, from Danny's Khalasar. They're all like, one of us, one of us should kick this guy's ass. And then he's like, no, you shouldn't. While Arstan, a.k.a. Whitebeard, is like, yes, they should. And Jorah Mormont is like, no, they shouldn't. And why should they, anyway, you smelly old geezer? Well, why? For morale. I mean, I do realize it's not like the walls of Meereen will magically open if we beat the crap out of this guy, but, it's for morale. And honor. It's the Daenerys who cuts him short. All right, whatever. You adorable, smelly old man. I don't know, I don't think Daenerys actually has this voice, but this is my best shot. All right, you adorable, smelly old man, whose name is definitely Arstan, and you're not at all another character in disguise. But yeah, but right now there are other... I will have other and more serious concerns than a pissing contest with this white and pink idiot. We've got like 20,000 soldiers and like 60,000 civilians to feed, according to our latest census. And the naughty guys who run this city, the so-called Great Masters, have harvested all they could around the city walls. Olives mainly. And burned all that they couldn't harvest. So there isn't a fig to eat out here. Okay, two things, actually three. Wouldn't it make more sense, to follow Quaith's advice, go forward, you must go back. Now, at this point, you must go back. Knocking on Yunkai's door, oh, hello, hi, could we possibly bother you for a cup of sugar? And maybe a couple 100,000 burritos to go. No guacamole in 50,000 of them. Yeah, we seem to have run out of food. Second thing, interesting. Astapor, good masters. Yunkai, wise masters. Meereen, great masters. Just world building, all equally despicable because, and here's the third thing I was dreading to have to comment on, but here we go. Trigger warning. I'm about to... Or is it content warning? Content warning, dear listener. Of course, I'm joking. Would you be reading A Song of Ice and Fire if you were the kind of person who needs trigger warnings? Whatever it is, I assure you, I am more squeamish and why sensible and sensitive, but also sensitive than you. I'm more squeamish than you are, I promise you. But yeah, okay, so here it comes. No, but seriously, okay, let me put my serious skull on, because this is some nasty stuff, really. or snuff, nasty stuff, some nasty stuff, or snuff for short. Because here he goes. Because on every milepost leading to Marine, the so-called Great Masters have had and I quote, a slave child nailed up, still living, with their entrails hanging out and one arm always outstretched to point the way to Marine. So there, 163 in total. Remember that number. So there. So I mean, if some commentators have picked on the images of Astapor that sort of like equated the city to hell, you know, that city, with all the sulfuric, or a word like that, fumes, the red bricks symbolizing blood and whatever. I mean, if you call Astapor hell, what do you call that? What do you call this? What the so-called Great Masters just did, you know? Although, you know, this macabre horror show, I guess, answers my first question. It's 163 miles back to Yonkai, for one thing, which would be a bit inconvenient. And now it's... And two, now it's personal between Dany and Meereen. I will have this city, she vowed to herself. Also, I know that it's a bit cynical to crunch numbers and figures and to try to figure out logistics on this kind of horror, but I mean, how much time did the Meereenese have on their hands to do all that? You know, not just that, not just the nailing, but also harvesting, burning the olive groves all around the city. I mean, but the timeline I just quoted from insists that only 2 weeks have elapsed between Daenerys IV and Daenerys V, which is this chapter here. So these so-called Great Masters must have been super busy. Or whether they had someone to do the dirty work for them, obviously, knowing them and their attitude and the fact that they can rely on cheap labor. And this is where we first encounter Brown Ben Plum. He's the new commander of the Second Sons, elected democratically, because that's Dany's new policy. And Brown Ben Plum has a history with this Meereenese champion out there, you know, dressed in pink and white. He's a loose cannon, apparently. The Meereenese champion, not Brown Ben. But I mean, so far he hasn't given us any reason to think that he's a loose cannon. But this other guy out there challenging any of Daenerys' men to a single combat. He's apparently a loose cannon, nephew to one of the richest guys in Meereen, and he's named Osnak Zopal. And the reason Ben had to flee Meereen in the first place, this guy is also the reason why Ben had to flee Meereen in the first place and join the Second Sons, abandoning his post as bodyguard to this rich uncle of Osnak's. Something to do with looking at Meereenese women in a way that displeased Osnak, apparently. So that's what happened. We don't have all the details. Oh, and I said pissing contest earlier, not randomly, but because this Osnak guy does indeed take a leak in the general direction of Dany's army, just to further taunt them, you know. And now Dany's thinking, man, this is getting serious. I mean, I thought I looked the bigger person if I ignored this idiot, but now I'm actually looking weak if I pretend, you know, I don't see that. You know, what to do indeed. And Arstan is like, yeah, see, I rest my case, your grace. I rest my case, your grace. So Strong Belwas is sent to meet Osnak Zopal in combat. They find Belwas under a tree, you know, feasting on a sausage. So as soon as they tell him there's some guy to kill out there, he gets going, but not before placing an order for his second main course. Liver and onions, if you please, because killing makes Belwas stronger, but hungrier. in his own words. I screwed that one up, didn't I? No, because killing makes it's not killing makes hungry Bell was stronger. No, it's just killing makes strong Bell was hungrier. Yeah, that would make more sense. Thank you. Which is also, sending Belwas is actually a practical move for Dany, because Belwas is expandable, she figures, given that he doesn't, apart from fighting, he doesn't really lead any part of the army. He's not exactly an irreplaceable strategist. And, bodyguards. Yeah, well, she's got bodyguards coming out of her ears now. Plus, Belwas also has a history with Meereen, because he used to fight in the pits in Meereen, kind of gladiator kind of guy, So he wins this. If he wins this single combat, that should very much wipe the smiles off the Meereenese faces, Imagine the humiliation. So off he goes, Belwas, dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-da, almost whistling, looking forward to this, to his liver and onions. And Osnak charges with his lance. That's the sound of the hoofs of his horse, because he's still on his horse, which, as Arstan remarks, is a bit of a dirty move. A chivalrous man would dismount. Why is this aging squire always speaking and seeing things from the point of view of a knight? Anyway, so he's not very chivalrous. Osnak is not playing fair. He's playing dirty. He's still on his horse with a 14-feet lance. Plus, Belwas isn't even wearing armor, worthy of that name. More like a studded leather vest, sort of like He-Man. You remember that? Imagine an overweight He-Man, but bald. And he's armed with an arak. Those arak? Looks like those curved blade things. Which Arstan, his squire, hones methodically every night for him. And he's also got the tiniest shield imaginable. If they wears it in a different way, not on his armpit, but on his fist. He grabs it with his fist. It's kind of like it's the size of a saucer. Everyone would think, okay, look at this overweight guy who probably can't move very fast either. He's dead meat, isn't he? Bah-ha-ha. But wait and see. So, because Osnak strikes him with his lance a couple of times, and Belwas does nothing but simply dodge, whoop, whoop, and get back into position. Because, Belwas isn't just a fighter, he's a performer. And in the pits, there's nothing the crowds love more than a near miss, Do you remember that? Whoo! Especially like the football games, when there's a near miss, it's like, whoo! like the gigantic exclamation mark rising from the seats. And there's always someone who goes, "Did you see that?" Okay, yes. This is all stolen from Billy Connolly. No, I couldn't. I didn't see that. No, sorry. I was reading Wuthering Heights. Yeah, couldn't put it down. That's still Billy Connolly. Okay, I'm quoting. I'm not stealing. Quote. Credit where credit is due. This isn't my material. So yeah, there's nothing the crowds more love than a near miss. So Belwas got, ha, got you there. Did you think it caught me? But no. And why do they call it a near miss anyway? Shouldn't they call it a near hit? Be more accurate, don't you think? And I think that someone has said that before. I'm not the one coming up with that idea. The first person on the planet coming up with that new definition for a near miss. Anyway, at the third time, Belwas finally gives Osnak the business. Yeah, which with his arach, slash right across the leg, and he unhorses him. Yeah, not bad, eh? So it's a head-to-head combat now. Here, the quote. Steel sang against steel. Too fast and furious for Dany to follow the blows. Fast and furious, interesting, eh? A movie that wouldn't come out for another year. Hashtag just saying. And it doesn't take long for Belwas to embed his arak into the guy's skull. I bet that's the sound he makes. Not before allowing him allowing Osnak to first give him at least one scar, because that's his policy. Then he beheads him, loots him, puts his horse out of his misery, and once all of that has been dealt with, Belwas proceeds to defecate in the direction of the Mirinese crowd, and then looks around. Oh, look, a nice pink and white silk scar. Oh, just the sort of thing, just sort of tissue I was looking for. There you go. It's not white and pink anymore. Yeah. Is that what Belwas always does at the end of a duel? Because relieve himself for the audience? Because I don't think that anyone had the time to tell him to, please send a message to Marine, in response to the wee Osnak had in the general direction of Dany and her army earlier on. Maybe that's just how Belwas rolls, regardless, I suppose. Yeah, that's what I do. It's like, I bought the shit. Is it people say, I bought the t-shirt, been there, done that. Belwas just say, yeah, I took a dump on him. Meaning, just another Tuesday at work for Belwas. And Dany's followers are going mental. Yeah. Well, Jorah is still a bit grumpy. Well, it's not like we're going to defeat the city one soldier at a time, Meanwhile, Belwas returns to camp, followed by arrows fired at him from the city towers. But each arrow just misses him by miles because he's too far. And everyone cheers at Belwas, man of the hour, Ben Plum tosses him a plum. What else? Although Dany insists that strong Belwas gets some medical attention. And conveniently, apparently there's a healer among the Yunkai civilians, so that's sorted. And then Dany convenes a war council. So what do we do? How do we conquer this city? Guys, I need ideas, okay? Let's start spitballing and brainstorming. Okay, right, okay. There are no bad or good ideas. I'm listening. Well, the trouble is, you see, I'm still speaking like some obnoxious CEO or a project manager. Trouble is, you see, a Marine is solid, well designed against any attacks. There are no weaknesses in the landward walls. That's east and south, while the northern and western sides are on the river and the sea, respectively. And we do have 3 cogs, ships type things, but we first need to inspect those walls. The idea of storming the gates with axes is tossed around, but Brown Ben is like, no. I know the city. Don't know if you noticed, but those bronze harpy heads just above the gates, yeah, they're not just decoration. They're actually used to pour down boiling oil. So no, I wouldn't recommend that particular course of action. To be sure, the Unsullied seem to be like, yeah, so what? Whatever, we're disposable, we can do it. But Dany won't have none of that. And Brown Ben is reminded of a saying, yeah, there are old sellswords and bold sellswords, but no old bold sellswords. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can fool someone his whole life and the whole people for one day, but you can. I don't know. Never mind. I would probably misquote it anyway. But yeah, okay. So yeah, you want to live long as a sellsword, try to be smart and not too bold. Don't be bold. Anyway, so the idea of prolonging the siege to starve the city, that is also out of the question, because those guys are well provisioned, and Dany's people are not. Also, an interesting mention to sickness, various ailments, is made here for the first time. Okay, let's just say it might be an issue in the future, and that's all I'll say about it. Don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my spoiler policy here is none. I'll try anyway. I'll try. In this series, I'll only be looking back and not ahead. So yeah. Anyway, so Jorah says, yeah. Here's the quote. Meereen shits into the Skahazadan River. Skahazadan, I'll have to remember how to pronounce it. River, but draws its drinking water from deep wells. And already we've had reports of sickness in the camps, fever and brown leg, and 3 cases of the bloody flux. Yeah, sickness is already spreading in this chapter. So there, like a good gardener, George R. R. Martin plants his seeds. Will they germinate? Let's read on and see. And it's at this point that Jorah raises that question, that same question I raised at the beginning. Excuse me, wouldn't it make more sense to just drop it and leave? I mean, Jorah has another logical addendum to this. At the end of the day, all this army is here for a purpose, to reconquer Westeros, the 7 kingdoms, not pick up a fight with these idiots. So Jorah Mormont figures, by the time the army reaches the shores of Westeros, the dragons will be big enough to barbecue any city. But waiting around here with polluted water and no food isn't a smart idea. And of course, granted, there's that small detail that all these followers, the civilians, would have to find a way to be self-sustainable or starve, because there's no way we can provide for all of them on our way to Westeros. Only able people who can fight, But it's a sacrifice Jorah Mormont is prepared to make. He goes, at the end of the day, no one forced them to follow Misha, or Mother, as they call Dany, And even the Dothraki Blood Riders venture some quote, They go, hey, it's not a defeat to turn back and leave. We, in fact, we do have quotes that fit this specific scenario, When cowards hide behind great walls, it is they who are defeated. This is Jogo speaking, although he's actually called Jogo in my edition for some reason. And Racharo also contributes. Yeah, and if I may build on what my illustrious colleague has just pointed out, when cowards hide and burn the food and fodder, a chap must seek for braver foes. It is well known. Wouldn't it be great if the Dothraki actually sounded like that? But I don't know, I just picture them. And by the way, I don't know about you, dear listener, but to me, these Blood Riders are all interchangeable. No, not in a racist way, right? They all look the bloody same to me. No, I mean in terms of how the characters are fleshed out, and the few lines they're given across the books. And at the time this book was published, before the Wiki of Ice and Fire, it must have been even worse, because to remind oneself of which Dothraki was which, one would have to flip through pages and pages and pages in books 1 and 2. Oh, that guy! Oh my God! I wish I'd taken notes on a notebook. my very own Ice and Fire companion, because that's what people had to do at the time. Because if there's something about George R. R. Martin, there's something George R. R. Martin does not do in these Daenerys chapters is remind readers of minor characters' attributes every time he brings them up. He doesn't tend to go, oh, Jogo, the skinny Dothraki who enjoyed collecting butterflies, or Racharo, with his adorable drooping moustache who made the best gazpacho. Yeah, no, you don't get any of that. So it's Racharo, it's Jogo. Okay, one of them is old, one of them is young. I don't know, I don't remember. Just good luck finding that reference to him two books ago. Anyway, Dany isn't prepared to leave. Not after what the Merediths have done, And at this point, Brown Ben offers the smelliest idea imaginable. Because the way he managed to escape Marine at the time, he recalls, nor is he likely to forget. Yeah, the way he managed to escape Marine was, Shawshank Redemption style. So he figures, if that's a way out, why shouldn't it be a way in? Yeah, this is what it says. This is the quote. Great brick sewers empty into the Skahazadhan, thank you, carrying the city's wastes. They might be a way in for a few. There are also iron grades, though some have rusted through, else I would have drowned in shit, Once inside, it is a long, foul climb in pitch dark through a maze of brick where a man could lose himself forever. The filth is never lower than waist high, and then it can rise over your head from the stains I saw on the walls. There's things down there too, bigger rats you ever saw, and worse things. Nasty. There you have it, dear listener. I hope you weren't snacking while I was reading this. The fact is, no one seems suitable for this mission. Brown Ben Plum won't do it for all the gold in the Seven Kingdoms, in his own words. And the kind of person he takes for this sort of mission is kind of like a ninja type secret infiltrator, not a soldier like an Unsullied, or a warrior like a Dothraki, or Dothrakai, as George R. R. Martin pronounces it. So there doesn't seem to be like a professional profile for this sort of assignment. Although, just because Brown Ben won't take this mission, and by a comment Dario makes, he also doesn't seem too keen. But just because the sellsword captains refuse to do it, doesn't mean that they can't order a few of their own men to attempt it. Just saying. Alright, so the War Council is dismissed, and this is where we find out a bit more about this Brown Ben Plum. Because as the other military leaders leave, the cream-collared dragon, Viserion, flies around a bit, and then he lands on Ben's head, one paw on his head and another on his shoulder, to which Ben just comments, what are you going to do? I thought dragons might like me, because on account of my Targaryen blood. Just a drop, to be sure. And I don't know this guy. The guy, by his account, is part Braavosi, part Summer Islander, part Ibonese, part Qohoric, part Dothraki, part Dornish, and part Westerosi, God knows where from. But apparently there was a Lord Plum who married a Targaryen princess a while back, during the reign of Aegon. Trouble is, he can't say exactly which of the 5 Aegon that was, and unfortunately Ben doesn't add a whole lot of credibility to his story by claiming that this Plum guy's penis was 6 foot long. Yeah, somehow, I don't know. So anyway, on that final bit of urban legend, Brown Ben Plum also leaves, and Dany, reclined on her cushion, thinks to herself, oh yeah, speaking of prodigious manhood, I wonder about that Dario. Oh, he's such a bad boy, but those dreamy blue eyes, oh my God. And all the way from Yunkai, just to here, just kept picking flowers for me, offering me flowers to help me familiarize, quote unquote, with the land's flora, but really more like to distract me from the gruesome spectacle on those mileposts. But yeah, he's so charming, and it makes me laugh, unlike Jorah, who's always so grumpy. How did you like my Daenerys Targaryen's impression? And she is 14. Why wouldn't she sound like that? Okay, yeah, 14-year-old girls do not sound like that either. I would have to speed up my speech. Yeah, but I could try with some digital effect. I'll try some other time. But she's also a queen. Khaleesi, do not speak like a regular teenager. This Jorah is always, coming up with these pearls of wisdom. Anyway, she keeps thinking of Jorah, and Dario, and then Jorah. They couldn't be more different, unlike each other. And for a fleeting moment, she even she even thinks, hey, you know, the dragon is supposed to have 3 heads. It's one of those prophecies. And I have 3 dragons, so why don't I just marry both Dario and Jorah and keep them both as king consorts? Yeah, get it over with. Yeah, no, but really, no. I don't know about that, dear Danny. I don't think that's a good idea. Anyway, that part about picking flowers was rendered faithfully in the HBO series. Although TV Dario isn't nearly as flamboyant as book Dario in his attire, hairdo, but still, yeah, that part was. So when you're feeling like that, Danny, huh? The best thing to do, I'll tell you what the best thing to do is go for a ride by the coastline, yeah, on your silver mare. On your mare, wind in your silver hair, with your PA Missandei riding at your left, Arstan, aka Whitebeard, at your right. This is the life, you know. It's funny how she has that in common with guess who? Robert Baratheon. You know, given that she thought about the usurper just a couple of pages back, while she was thinking about the 5 kings, you know, all named Aegon, and how there would have been a sixth. There would have been six kings named Aegon with her nephew, with Dany's nephew, if Robert hadn't had him killed. But yeah, Robert also was all about random rides out there, you know, in touch with nature and whatnot. You know, nothing like a ride to clear your head and some strong wine. So yeah, so she passes by the encampment, being saluted by the Unsullied, who are out there, you know, training, taking baths, because they're all about health and hygiene, unlike some of the sellswords who stink to high heaven, apparently. And I just said that George R. R. Martin doesn't waste a lot of ink reminding us of things in these Daenerys POV chapters when it comes to minor characters. But here, he does take the time to remind us, and for the second time, that Daenerys still has those 3 ships, 3 cogs, which she borrowed from Magister Illyrio, Balerion, Meraxes, Vhagar, named after, she renamed the ships after the dragons ridden by the first Targaryens who conquered Westeros. And she sees those ships because they're out there, you know, doing nothing in particular, just sitting in the bay. And just to remind ourselves, the ships also came with a captain, that guy, you know, Groleo, formerly in the service of Illyrio Mopatis. He's also there. I thought I'd point that out for some reason. So yeah, Dany keeps riding, enjoying the view, acknowledging once again the dire state of the other camp, you know, not the unsullied military camp, but the messy, random civilian camp, you know, naked children running around and people cooking animals that used to be pets or mounts just the previous day, you know, refugee camp. I guess the analogy fits in this case because really, but it is a refugee camp, because here's what happens next. As Daenerys is riding through the camp, all people blessing her, blowing kisses in her direction, mother, some bloke grabs her foot and drags her to the ground. At which point, like almost always when someone falls to the ground in this series, it's the earth who actually rushes up. You know, we have seen that image again and again. The most memorable one being in the prologue of Feast for Crows. But anyway, and this aggressor is no refugee, but a warlord, which is one of the things about refugee camps, isn't it? You hear it from all those relief, you know, agencies, organizations. The thing about refugee camp is that more often than not, they might also harbor warlords who fled a conflict, living among actual displaced civilians. And Dany sort of recognizes the voice of this attacker who's already started threatening to casually chop her to pieces. she can't quite place him, particularly because he has a shaved head and he's all sunburned. Clear sign that he's new to this new accommodation, you know, outdoorsy thing, you know, without shelter from the sun. That's another clue. He hasn't been out there for long. But the voice is familiar. One of the freedmen rushes to Danny's defense, but suddenly remembers that he has an urgent appointment because the aggressor has a knife. Call that a knife? This is a knife. Yeah, that kind of a knife. Okay, that dreadful accent, I'll admit. Okay, I don't do a very good Crocodile Dundee. But yeah, this is where Arstan, aka Whitebeard, steps in. And I cannot tell you how relieved I am that I'm finally using this aka pseudonym for the last time. That's right, Arstan, aka Whitebeard, is about to be decommissioned as a name, as a moniker. But first, we watch the old man doing his Gandalf thing, jumping off the horse, brandishing his staff. You wouldn't deprive a frail old man of his staff, and kicking the bastard's ass at a ludicrous speed. I'm saying bastard because the attacker is none other than Miro, the Titan's bastard. Yeah, because, if you were thinking at the beginning of this chapter, oh yeah, whatever happened to him? I mean, we were told at the beginning of this chapter that the Second Sons had elected a new commander, Brown Ben Plum. Okay, good. Okay, what else is new? Let's get on with our lives. But we didn't. We didn't ask ourselves, yeah, whatever happened to the former captain, commander, whatever? Well, there he is. Lots of reshuffling in the sellsword community cadre as a consequence of the Battle of Yunkai. Yeah, there you have it. So the old guy, puts himself between Daenerys and Miro, which is a classical bodyguard type of move, and proceeds to batter the Titan's bastard with a staff. Ouch, ouch. I mean, it's a joy to behold. I mean, really. He's breaking ribs, fibulas, finally the skull. And then he literally jettisons the knife from the dude's hand and gives the guy to the crowds, who basically eat him alive. Oh, we haven't had meat in ages. And Miro is no more. That's it. Wow, 2 fights in one day. Not bad, huh? By way of entertainment. Yeah. So yeah, pretty good. So both of these fights actually won by the two guys Magister Illyrion Mopatis had sent there for Dany's protection. I mean, in the case of Belwas, yeah, sure, his job description was, after all, bodyguard to Daenerys. Okay, but this other fella ostensibly was none other than Belwas's aging squire. I said it before. And he dispatched a trained mercenary in like less than a minute? What's that about? And it's what the geezer says next that really sounds like Secret Services, He shouldn't have gotten too close. He shouldn't have gotten so close, Mr. President. I had to act fast. Actually, no, let me read you the actual quote. Your Grace, I'm an idiot. No, Your Grace, I'm an old man. And shamed. He should never have gotten close enough to seize you. I was lax. I did not know him without his beard and hair. Aha, you're one to talk, old man, because correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you grow your hair and beard precisely as a disguise, huh? Because no more tiptoeing around it, dear listener. I'll assume you have made it to the end of this chapter. Belwas's so-called squire is none other than former member of the King's Guard in King's Landing, Sir Barristan Selmy. Whew, there, I finally said it. That's right. And in case this is your first read, a little reminder. Last time we saw Sir Barristan Selmy, going by his God-given name, was in Sansa 5, all the way back in Book 1, which coincidentally was also a 57th chapter like this one. And you know what? Right now I want to check if by any chance the first time we see the so-called aging squire Arstan, aka Whitebeard, in A Clash of Kings, happens to be chapter 57. No, it's not. No, I just checked. No. Chapter 57 in A Clash of Kings is in fact a Sansa 5. Okay, no. Right, never mind. It was just a thing that I wanted to check. All right, so yeah, no, anyway. Numerology, I'm into numerology and shit, you know. So, anyway, at the time, when we last saw Barristan Selmy in Book 1, he was being dismissed from the Kingsguard and the Small Council on grounds of, old age, the implied accusation being that he did not keep King Robert safe. The Lannisters' motivations, however, I'm reading from the Wiki of Ice and Fire, the Lannisters' motivations, however, were to allow Joffrey to give a white cloak to his dog, Sandor Clegane, and to allow Queen Cersei Lannister to place her brother Jaime as the new Lord Commander with a seat on the Small Council. Outraged by his removal, Barristan threw down his sword and left the throne room. There you have it. Joffrey ordered the knight seized and questioned for a perceived threat uttered in the heat of his dismissal. And Barristan entered the White Sword Tower to edit his White Book entry, dutifully recording his own dismissal. Yeah, wow. Stickler to procedure to the last moment, eh? Janos Slynt and 3 gold cloaks attempted to seize Barristan in the stables, and even without his sword, Barristan killed 2 guards and fled the Red Keep, because he's a badass, to finally reappear toward the end of A Clash of Kings. By the way, yeah, I don't know, sporadically we hear the Small Council and maybe Cersei or Tywin saying things like, and what about Barristan? I bet he's fighting for Stannis, because that's the general theory, and that was our general theory throughout Clash of Kings, which would have made sense. Little did we know that Arstan was none other than the man himself. And by the way, talking about the Wiki of Ice and Fire, while that website is great for reminding yourself of who's who and whatever, it's terrible if you don't want the shit spoiled out of your first read. Because the first time, I don't know, at some point in the middle of reading book 3, this very book, I think I was curious to find out more about this so-called Arstan, aka Whitebeard. So I typed his name in the search box, and sure enough, I was taken to the entry for Barristan Selmy. Oh, I was so pissed off, I tell you. So yeah, and currently at the time, that's what happens if you type Arstan into the search box. That's where you'll be taken. I don't know if at the time of you listening to this thing, that has been fixed, but not right now. That's not the case. Anyway, so Dany makes it back to her tent. Jorah arrives willy-nilly because he hasn't got a clue what just happened. He goes, oh, hello. Yeah, so I've had a look around the city's defenses, yeah? The walls on the river seems to be a bit... Yeah, never mind that. Why didn't you tell me that Miro had escaped and followed us all the way from Yunkai, huh? He was disguised in the crowd, armed with a massive blade. You should have seen it. He would have made mincemeat out of me if it hadn't been for this adorable, smelly old guy, Whitebeard, who basically killed him with his staff, which actually does sound a bit implausible now that I'm describing how the action went down in one single sentence. How did it... Arstan, how did you... I should probably tell you at this point that the dialogues are slightly paraphrased, and to be fair, it's really the crowds who finished Miro off, as I guess George R. Martin wanted to be on the page, precisely to lend the story a bit more credibility. But here in that version, Jorah has a bit of a hard time believing it. So let me get it straight. An elderly squire with a wooden stick killed a bloodthirsty sellsword armed to his teeth. Yeah, well, he's no longer a squire. I want him to be knighted, and you can anoint him, because I know that it takes one to make one in this universe. I learned that from Beric Dondarrion. Daenerys is very meta at this point. But no, Jorah Mormont will have none of that. anointed knight nonsense. And for once, Barristan Selmy agrees. And at that point, Jorah goes all Scooby-Doo on the old squire, and he will soon regret it. He goes, all right, let's see who you really are. Well, I'll sodding well tell you who I am. I'm a better knight than you'll ever be, so there. I can totally picture him trying to stick his finger in Jorah's eyes. You know, Stooges style. A knight? Daenerys is getting a bit dizzy at this point. But you're a knight? But you and I and she. Well, Your Grace, I didn't actually lie to you. I was in fact a squire like a jillion years ago, and I'm a squire again at the service of Illyrio Mopatis right now, in charge of your protection. So yeah, technically, if we just ignore that massive gap in my resume, really, I did tell you the truth, if not all the truth, you know. Also, you know what? I said my name was Arstan, and technically that's also true because a lot of people have been calling me that. Because I told them to. You know, Barristan is really pulling an Obi-Wan Kenobi on Dany. You know, I told you the truth from a certain point of view. You know, I never liked that line from Alec Guinness in Return of the Jedi. From a certain point of view. Anyway, so Daenerys has just about had it. He goes, all right, will you stop beating around the bush? Who are you actually? And it's Jorah Mormont who does the big reveal at this point. I know who you are. Careful, Jorah. Khaleesi, before you kneels Sir Barristan Selmy, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, who betrayed your house to serve the usurper Robert Baratheon. Okay, this quote was verbatim. As is the next thing, here we go, that Barristan says, I took Robert's pardon, I served him in Kingsguard and Council, served with the Kingslayer and others near as bad who soiled the white cloak I wore. Nothing will excuse that. I might be serving in King's Landing still, if the vile boy upon the Iron Throne had not cast me aside. It shames me to admit. But when he took the cloak that the White Bull had draped about my shoulders and sent men to kill me that self-same day, it was as though he'd ripped a coal off my eyes. That was when I knew I must find my true king. Imagine that, like a musical, I keep telling you. My true king, and I in his service. Or in your case, in her service, I assume, Daenerys? May I assume that? Because queen, you call it Khaleesi, means queen. So there you have it. That's Barristan the Bold, Barristan the Brave, is it? And this is where Barristan brings out all of his extenuating circumstances, you know, extenuating circumstances. I can't seem to pronounce that word. Hey, at the end of the day, yeah, I took an oath, so that's why I served whoever. Yeah, the oath says, clearly states, I'll serve whoever happens to be sitting on the throne. That's what I did. And let's not forget that before the end of the Baratheon Rebellion, I actually fought alongside Rhaegar on the Trident, while Jorah here was fighting on the other side, huh? My point being, people change. And, you know, with you going around with a spy that reported on your every move to the Lannisters via some guy called Varys. You don't know him, an amiable fellow. Yeah, I had to take all sorts of precautions, so that's why I changed my name. Anyway, what I'm saying is that, yeah, while I was sitting in the small council, yeah, I must have heard like 100 reports on everything you, Daenerys, did, down to your favorite type of ice cream, you know, because of a spy in your rank and file. And all evidence points to this man. This thing is turning into a courtroom drama, you know. And that man being Jorah Mormont, with Dany, who can't believe her ears. Say it ain't so, Joe, goes Danny, quoting a song by Murray Head. No, but really, because anyway, so yeah, no, we knew that there was some weird machinations going on involving Illyrio in Pentos and Varys in King's Landing. And I guess this is as good a time as any to catch up with that, because, we first heard of it via Arya. Arya Stark overheard the conversation between those two back in Game of Thrones, Book 1, and supposedly the two did work in tandem to whatever end. But did they actually? Because look, Magirio, my name is Magirio, Magister, Illyrio, and Varys were not really on the same page, were they? On the one hand, Varys arranged for Daenerys to be poisoned, and on the other, Varys warned Viserys, or some people call him Viserys or Viserys. I'll call him Viserys. Screw that. And on the other, Varys, or someone sent by Varys, warned Viserys of the plot. I swear it's all on Game of Thrones Daenerys 6, if you recall, dear listener, not to put too fine a point. Anyway, I don't know. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. Some people pointed to George changing his mind about how, this plot is actually concocted and acted upon, and if he could, he would go and rewrite some bits of Game of Thrones. Other people chalk it up to my own thickness. So you decide, dear listener. I'm sure I'm missing something. Anyway, what I'd like to focus on right now is a little quote from Daenerys 1 in this same book. Because look, it's another example of those great subliminal notions that Mr. Martin plants in the reader's minds, Because in that chapter, Daenerys 1, Storm of Swords, 1 minute Jorah is saying, look, Arstan, aka Whitebeard, is not who he says he is, all right? And literally in the same paragraph, he continues, in Westeros, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard sits on the small council and serves the king with his wits as well as with his steel. Now, Jorah said that for no other reason than to state how he would like to be the head of the Queen's Guard and so on and so forth. However, you see what George did there? A subliminal image of the commander of the King's Guard just randomly placed there. I mean, this is another great example of what Anne Grohl, George R. R. Martin's editor, calls the threefold revelation strategy. Here it is, and I quote, I realized his threefold revelation, George's threefold revelation strategy. I see it in play almost every time. The first, subtle hint for the really astute reader, so that's not me, and then followed later by the more blatant hint for the less attentive. Okay, I guess I'm around there, closer to that. And then followed by just spelling it out for everyone else. It's a brilliant strategy and highly effective. So the first, that was the first subtle hint. And if you ask me, that was practically subliminal. Come on, how would you... you really had to weigh every single word. Oh, anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, so Danny goes, oh, you betrayed me? All this time, Jorah? Say it ain't so, Joe, please, say it ain't so. But Jorah, at this point, he can only go, well, actually, yes, whoops, busted. No, but listen, yeah, it was only at the beginning. Then I fell in love with you and I stopped filing those reports, which is kind of like it's a sort of a trope, isn't it? A variation. The older I was using you at first, but then I fell for you. There's like dozens of variations, I'm sure, on TV tropes. I was using you to get to my enemy, who happens to be your sugar daddy. But then I fell, or even no. How about this? I was sleeping with you because of a bet, but then I fell for you like big time, and everything changed. but no, she won't have nothing to do with the guy anymore. It's here the Daenerys and Jorah is a very twisted and yeah, kind of like dysfunctional, even worse variation of that trope, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's between a teenager and a what 50-something year old guy. But yeah, it's a variation. But clearly, Jorah, when he says, oh, I fell for you, Khaleesi, that's the last thing Daenerys is prepared to hear right now. Oh, shut up, will you? What was it that made you grasp me up in the first place, yeah? Was it gold? Gold, yeah? They promised you gold? No, there was a certain royal pardon that was dangled before me. Varys, amiable chap. I couldn't agree more with Barry Selmy. He said I might go back home. You've never been to Westeros. You want to go there, but you've never been there, so you can't miss it. But I do. And then I changed my mind. I thought I might like hanging, with you. Although I guess that's no longer an option. And this is where Daenerys loses it. Oh, God. She would kick their asses, both of these guys. Are all the knights in Westeros as false as you two? Get out before my dragons roast you both. What does roast liars smell like, I wonder? As foul as brown Ben's sewers? Go! Keep this sewer reference in mind, dear listener. For the next chapter. That's all I'm going to say, yeah. But right now, Danny is still fuming. He says, "Get out of my face!" Where should we go? This is Barristan. Tell me. I don't know. But then she knew. And this is how the chapter concludes. So we don't know what did she know? Aha! What did she finally realize? We don't know, and we won't find out until the next Dany POV chapter, Daenerys 6, and yeah, which is also the last chapter of this beautiful novel. So what can I say? There's no more story to tell as far as this chapter is concerned. So if you managed to follow me thus far, dear listener, my admiration to your attention span and so on and so forth. And what else? Well, thank you for listening. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do all of the things. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Bye.